I'm 7 years old, and I'm sitting on the couch with my Grandma Barrie. And I'm feeling comfy and content. And she's sitting beside me, and she's looking at me, and she's looking down and smiling. But she doesn't put her arm around me and pull me in or anything, because she's not that huggy. And she's affectionate, but at a distance. And she's always excited when my brother and sister or I come for a visit, but only for so long. And there are no sleepovers. She's just not that kind of grandma. Sybil, as she's known to the rest of the world, she's short, and if I was to choose one word to describe her, I would say round. She has a round body, a round face, these beautiful big round cheekbones. She wears large round glasses with a chain on the arms, and her white hair is in a big round perm, very Betty White. And she looks down at me and she says, "You know, dear," and she always called us dear. "You know, dear, when I was young, I used to live in Toronto." Oh boy, here we go again. Grandma Barrie is telling her Toronto story again. And I take a bite of the cookie that's on a plate on my lap and a sip of concentrated orange juice that's in the white coffee mug she always served it in. When I was a young girl, I moved from Saskatoon to Toronto to become a nurse. And I was independent, and I made my own money, and I had a great job, and I had some great friends, and I just loved the theater, and my friends and I would be in plays, and we would dress up, and it was just wonderful. And I never really minded her telling this story because she would get so excited, and she would light up every time she told it. So I nod my head, and I take another bite from the slightly stale Peak Freen and wash it down with diluted orange juice, and listen as she recounts the tales of her youth. But the thing is, the story always stops there. Always ends at Toronto. She never talks about how she met my grandfather, who passed away when I was 4, and what it felt like to move from the big city to a farm and become a mother and raise my father and his 2 brothers. And we knew that she had been married once before, but her first husband had died in the war. And after that, she met my grandfather and was plucked out of this independent life and stuck on a farm in the middle of nowhere to be a housewife and raise 3 boys. The farm we live on has been in the Barrie family for generations. And it's 100 acres, and there are 2 houses on the property separated by a road and a field. And originally, Sybil, my grandfather, my father and his brothers had all lived in the house that I grew up in. And at some point when they were younger, they moved over to the other homestead. And when my parents got married, they moved back into that house to raise us, and my dad continued working on the farm. And our farmhouse was modest. It was, just had 4 rooms downstairs, 4 bedrooms upstairs, some stairs in the middle, and that's where the bathrooms were. And in the 80s, my parents built a porch, an enclosed porch on the front for a mudroom and a laundry room. And there was an old door knocker on the front door that was inscribed with 1832, so we knew it was at least that old. At the back of the property is a huge forest, and we spent so much time there. We would be up there piling wood, gathering wood to pile, chopping wood, piling chopped wood for our wood stove. And one day, my dad comes down from the woods, and he's carrying 2 grave markers. And I'm thinking, this is so cool. But the next day he brings them back because he says something just doesn't feel right. And I'm curious, so I ask, like, why would there be grave markers in the woods? And my dad says, well, in the olden days, they used to have funerals in the house, and then they would bury people on the property. Whoa. And then the conversation turns to ghosts. And my mother says, you know, we have a ghost in this house, right? Okay. And she continues and she says, one night I woke up and there was a man sitting on the end of my bed. And he stood up. And he was tall and slender, and he looked like he was wearing like formal military attire. And then, do you remember how there used to be a doorway between our room and your sister's room? And we walled it off to build a closet. Well, he walked through the wall right where that door used to be. And another time, I was in my bedroom, and I heard somebody going down the stairs. And I checked, and all three of you were sound asleep in bed. And your father was out doing chores. Now, she doesn't seem scared or frightened about these experiences, so I'm not scared. Actually, quite the opposite. Like, I want to meet this ghost. This sounds really cool. So, 3 years later, I'm 10 years old, and I'm home alone at night with my brother. My parents, they've gone out for the night with some friends. My sister's out at a sleepover. So I'm really excited because I don't get much one-on-one time with my brother. He's 16, he's like the quintessential 80s jock. And I'm at that age where I like idolize him. And I listen to all the same music he does. New Order, Depeche Mode, Pet Shop Boys. And I watch all the same movies he watches. Poltergeist, Nightmare on Elm Street, Amityville Horror. And we're up in my room, and we're playing Double Dragon on my Sega Master System. Now, I might be the youngest in the house, but I'm also the only one with a TV. So we're playing, and we are like power eating this giant container of cashews. And we're really getting into it, and we're getting close to ending the level. Like, it's like, oh my God, this is so amazing. And then suddenly we just hear this slam. It was the screen door on the front porch. Then footsteps, clomp, 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 clomp. Then a click, slam. The main door to the front house. More footsteps, clomp, 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 clomp. Man, we are just almost finished this level. Like, I do not want to stop, but fine. And I hit pause on my Sega, and we get up to go downstairs to see my parents, who are home much, much earlier than they said they'd be. So I get down to the bottom of the stairs, and I freeze. My chest tightens. My breath quickens. Quick, shallow breaths. A chill goes up my spine, across my shoulders, down the back of my arms. The hair on my forearms is standing up. It's quiet. It's dark. The lights are off. All the lights are off. I look at my brother, and he is just as confused as I am. So we make our way through the dining room, and we turn on the lights. We go through the kitchen, we turn on the lights. And then we open the door to the front porch. And as we open the door and flick on the lights, the dogs raise their heads, and they're blinking at us, and they're like, oh, like, what's going on, guys? Like, they have no idea what's going on. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, the dogs didn't bark. And when someone comes home, the dogs always bark. And what usually sets them off is the crunch of the tires when a car pulls in the driveway. There's no car. There's no one here. So we make our way back through the house, turning on every single light we can find. And as we're going through the house and making our way upstairs, I think to myself, maybe I don't want to meet this ghost after all. And Jason and I go back to decimating bad guys and cashews, and neither of us says a word about what just happened. As the years go on, I don't really experience anything like that again, but I feel it. Like I will be sitting in my room listening to music, and I get this feeling. Like, you know, when you're, say, like on a streetcar, and you get this feeling that someone's watching you, and you lift your head, and you catch them. Well, it's like that, but all the time. And it's not like someone's hovering, it's more like they're standing back by the window or the door or just standing at the wall, watching, observing, judging. Or sometimes I'll see a movement out of the corner of my eye and I'll turn my head, but there's nothing there. And even though I can't see this person, I can sense them. And in my mind, I kind of picture what they look like. And I picture what my mom said in the same way, as tall and slim and wearing something formal. Eventually, I finish high school and I leave home. And one time, I'm back home visiting after university, and Sybil has been moved to a home. Her dementia has really taken hold, and it has regressed her farther and farther back to Nurse Sybil in Toronto, and has erased most of the people in the present. And my parents have been clearing out the house, and my mom hands me this box, and she says, "Take a look at these. I found this in the attic." And I start looking, and it's a box full of pictures. And I realize these are wedding photos of Sybil and her first husband. And it's pictures of the wedding party, them standing at the altar, cutting the cake. But in every single photo, his face is scratched out. Ten years later, Sybil passes away, and I'm back home visiting my folks again, and now they're just clearing out the house and getting it ready for sale. And my dad hands me a small box, and it's beautifully decorated with this intricate floral pattern, and it's got a hinged lid and a small clasp keeping it closed. And I open the clasp and open the box and start leafing through, and it's letters. And I pick up a letter and read it. "My dear, I miss you so much. I can't wait for you to come home." These are love letters between Sybil and her first husband. And they are so intimate and contain a level of emotion and affection that I've never experienced from her before. And so much that I just put it down. I feel like I just shouldn't be reading this. And I leaf through a little bit more and I pick up a pressed flower. A little more, there's more letters, and then I pick up a photo. It's about the size of a postcard. It's black and white with a white border around it. And it's two people posing in a garden. And on the left is my grandmother. And she is so young and so beautiful. And she's wearing like a white gown with a shawl over her shoulders. And beside her is a man, tall, slim, wearing a suit. And his face is still intact. They're both smiling. And as I'm looking at this photo, I just realized that's him. Like, that is the ghost. That is the person that has been watching me, following all these years. And as I'm looking at this photograph, I'm surprised that I'm feeling happy. And I feel happy because maybe he's just been waiting around all this time. And now that Sybil's passed on, they can be reunited and she can finally be at peace. This summer, I went back to the farm to visit my folks. And I asked my mother, "So, how has the ghost been lately?" And she says, "I haven't heard or seen a thing for years. It's been really quiet since Sybil died." Thank you.